welcome to Crime Bytes, the show where we talk about some truly bizarre and disturbing crime cases. My name is Liz, and today is True Crime Tuesday. So, Father's Day was last Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all my dad viewers out there. I hope you had a fantastic day. Or, should I say, I hope you have the day you deserved. I'm not going to wish today's diabolical daddy a happy Father's Day, or happy anything at all, unless it's some prison sentence. And I know everyone's talking about this case. It's all over the internet thanks to a Netflix special that we'll touch on as we get into today's story. I'm not sure. Today may become more of a roast. It's going to be different from the normal for a few reasons. The first being that the alleged douchebag dad we're going to discuss has not been charged with anything, or should I say he's never been charged and convicted of anything. So why are we here? Okay, let me start with a question. What if I told you I could give you everything you ever wanted, but it would come at a price? Now, let's meet Robert Shinn. Robert grew up in Toronto, Canada, and was even a doctor there, but later moved to LA. In his own words,
when I was a medical doctor, and I wasn't seeking God, I was not even thinking about God, and yet the Holy Spirit touched me. Boom.
He started the Shekinah Church in 1994. Now, there are a couple different Shekinah churches, but his is unaffiliated with the other ones that are out there. The church is based in Christianity, but we're going to explore that a little as well. So before we do that, I need to state that I would consider myself to be a person of faith, a Christian even. This channel is a true crime channel, and I do and will continue to attempt to be as unbiased as possible, but we all know that that isn't completely possible for anybody, no matter what their background is, discussing topics like these, to be completely unbiased. That being said, I was born and raised in Christian churches. I've even been kicked out of a few of said churches. I've been through periods in my life where I haven't attended church. At the present moment, I am attending a church. Everyone's spiritual beliefs and journeys are different, and I think it is important to acknowledge that and respect it. That being said, let's go ahead and tear into this douchebag. And I feel fairly comfortable saying that, and I think you'll see why as we continue forward. Because of my background, I'm particularly drawn to cases involving cults. Now, this alleged cult, because they firmly deny, as every cult does, that they are a cult. So let's dive in a little bit, but first let's clarify and define cult. If you hop on Google and put in the search bar, what is a cult? The dictionary pops up. It defines it as a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. Cult of St. Olaf. A relatively small group of people having religious beliefs or practices regarded by others as strange or sinister. A misplaced or excessive admiration for a particular person or thing. So Robert Shinn starts Shekinah Church, and as he is doing so, he's also starting various other business ventures. Eventually, he decided to attempt to get into show business. In 2013, he actually helped produce a movie called Random Encounters that starred Meghan Markle, who is currently the Duchess of Cambridge. And get this, it's said that he attributes her marrying Prince Harry to him. Indirectly, of course, but basically because she was in this movie that he directed or produced, she went on to marry a prince. And it was like that with anyone who saw any sort of success in their lives, and he could somehow twist to attribute that success to him. You better believe he was going to do that. He also attempted to help get his daughter Khloe into the singing business, but she has since severed ties with him. So in this case, if you can even call it that, because it's barely a case, he has a civil suit coming up next year. Hopefully it'll turn into something more, but that's all there is now. This insane issue or cult is being blown up at the moment thanks to the Netflix special Dancing with the Devil. It looks further into Robert Shinn's church or alleged cult and some of the people who were involved in it. The special opens with this touching scene of Miranda, Derrick, and Melanie Wilking.
Boxes. This was me in 4th grade. This was a self-portrait. Let me just put it like that. I have something. Why I love and respect you, Melanie. What? Number 1, you always care about me. Number 2, you always love me. Number 3, you always cheer me up when I'm sad. Number 4, when I get hurt, you always make sure I'm okay, in all caps. Number 5, when I mess up something, you always fix it. Thank you. Number 6, when I fall, you...
It's hard for me to even remember.
They're so cute. And as you can see from this video, they had an amazing bond. Makes me think of my sister, although my mom just showed us a memory box recently that was similar, and mine was like, you have to say the password to get into my room. Some cute stuff still, and we were close as well, but these girls seem closer than we were, if that's possible, and I say that because of how close me and my sister were when we were growing up. We even used to dance too, but she was by far the good one. So if you don't know who these ladies are, they're basically famous for being TikTok dancers, and now they're blowing up because of this scandal. So they're from Detroit, and they both moved out to LA to pursue dancing. They ended up collaborating with a dancer named James, or B-Rad. He was working with Isiah Shinn, who had been helping him make his videos. One day, the dancers were all hanging around talking about the business, and Isiah's dad, Robert Shinn, was there, and he was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own business and management company. And with that, 7M was born. And it went something like this.
Add B-Dash, add Reno, and he's like, okay, let's add Big 2 as well. I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, my boys are okay. I was like, I want to be in it too.
I was hungry to like get invited to everything.
I was invited by my bro B-Dash. Okay, it sounds dope.
I would talk to Miranda at the end of the night, like, hey, what'd you do today?
So he was, and as far as I know, he's still running 7M with his son Isiah. Miranda started dating B-Rad, which kind of goes hand in hand with her joining 7M. And initially, Melanie was working with them until things started to get weird or weirder. Apparently, church was expected, but it was also by invitation only. So that's already off, but anyways, Melanie wasn't planning on going one Sunday. She wasn't invited, and Robert's daughter Khloe called her and basically told her she should cancel her plans and inconvenience one of her friends last minute to come to church that Sunday. The encounter put such a bad taste in Melanie's mouth that she backed away from the church. I don't know, what would you do? James, or B-Rad, was it B-Rad? I gotta look this up. Gosh, am I doing B-Rad from like, what was that movie? Not White Chicks. Oh my gosh, it'll come to me. It was like that Malibu's Most Wanted. B-Rad with the friggin' bazooka. Anyhow, B-Rad, we're gonna call him James, and then I'm gonna look up what his name actually is. B-Rad. James was extremely involved, and because of this, Miranda was definitely not going to be as quick to walk away. But if things are so strange, what's the draw? Let's watch this quick clip.
A lot of young men and women travel to LA with their big dream of being like on stage and like just get wrapped up in a lot of things that like aren't fair for them. They don't get paid enough, they get overworked, people overlook them. There's little opportunity and a lot of dancers. They're seeing Robert's house, watching him drive these luxury cars. That's why a place like Shekinah can look so alluring.
Robert was just like, I can make you rich. And he only said that to me, he said to a lot of the dancers in 7 we can give you a place, we can give you a home, we can give you a car, we can give you finances, management, all this stuff.
You know, Robert was like, well, I actually have like 2 empty bedrooms in a home in Sunland that you guys can occupy for $2,200 a month. It was like a really great house. There was a lot of space. Like, we had 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, so it kind of felt like we had our own little wing in the house. And there were 2 music studios, 2 dance studios. All the equipment was there. Someone would edit it. They would take care of the brand deals. Most of the time, we were just creating. We were just being content creators in Los Angeles in a nice house with some dope people and just loving God. And then they're like, yeah, well, we're also gonna have church services on like Sunday, so you could come. Like, this house is kind of an extension of the.
Kind of sounds like a dream come true, right? So that's the bait, and clearly Robert is able to find these artists and essentially exploit them. I mean, that's my take on that, but let's take a smaller dive in, shall we?
Hear somebody talking about spirit, you know what I mean, and then on top of that, money, which is the most dangerous thing to talk about to an artist. Perfect prey. Perfect prey.
I couldn't agree more. So let's look at the base price of being a part of 7M.
Thank you, Lord. Yeah. I earned my paycheck as a producer.
With 7M, it's a 20% management fee, which is pretty normal. And then like the church would encourage giving 10% tithes, which is in the Bible, 10% man of God, and then 10% offering.
Every time God told me to give, He only told me to give when He wanted to give me something. And then He started blessing you.
We were seeing blessings. And I'm like, guys, it's working.
Aubrey's tweeted a commercial went live today. Hallelujah.
Most of the time we just do what he said because we felt like he knew what's best.
So on top of the management fee, 20%, 30% is going to the church. I know tithes are biblical or in the Bible. They're actually the only place in the Bible where God tells you to test him. So that's interesting if you believe in God as he's depicted in the Bible. So that is 10% of your income if you choose to practice Christianity to that extent. But the 10% additional offering and 10% man of God fee, did she say fee? I don't know what those are besides additional money that, and Christians can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it supposed to be 10% tithe and then giving an additional based on your relationship with God and whatever you feel God's telling you to give on top of that? Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but anything beyond that goes into prosperity gospel or prosperity preaching, and that is some dangerous stuff, I think. And Robert Shinn is definitely a prosperity preacher, if not also a cult leader. I think he's both. But have a listen here.
You have to sow something big. Big sowing, big reaping. Small sowing, small reaping. Your giving has to reflect your receiving desire.
So on top of the 50% of your check that you're automatically giving to the church or your management company / church, 50%, you were encouraged to give on top of that to get bigger blessings. Dangerous. Anyhow, so prosperity preaching. It's dangerous. It's not against the law, but people are vulnerable. And in this specific case, this can be seen by Robert being sued by one of his members in 2009 who stated that he exerted undue influence, mind control, coercive persuasion, oppression, and other intimidating tactics. The suit was dismissed in Robert's favor in 2011. Awful, manipulative, swindling, but illegal? I'm sorry, Robert, but I'm also pretty sure that you reap what you sow in the Bible can be applied to finances and many things, but I'm pretty sure the main point is like a karma type thing. And sir, you should be shaking in your boots, allegedly. Because don't forget to add that if you decide to discuss this cult, Mr. Shinn seems to be very keen on suing for defamation. So I am simply calling him a douchebag, swindling prosperity cult leader based on the allegations that are being thrown around. Because wait, there's more. The Shekinah Church has been around for 30 years now, and there are more stories. And I'm sure there's even more that will be coming out as the weeks go on because this is so fresh, and I so hope so. But there are also sexual misconduct allegations involved, which really kicks things up a notch. They bring on 2 Korean sisters who share their experience in Shekinah Church before Robert founded 7M Management Company. So these sisters joined the church looking for a place to belong after experiencing a really rough home life. They go into the structure of the church and how Robert was basically using his members to be underpaid workers in his various business endeavors. Slimy, yes. Illegal, not necessarily. Volunteering gets tricky there, but they go on to talk about signing checks for Robert so that he could manage their finances. Is that illegal? Either way, they agreed to whatever arrangement because of what they were being offered. A place to live, a community, people who care about them. You would get something, but in this case, it came with a price you had to pay, and oftentimes more than what people would consider to be acceptable. Now, one of these sisters, and her name was also Melanie, she would say that at one point while he was preaching, several young women would come into the church and accuse Robert of sexually assaulting them, basically in the form of coercion. They stated that he promised them women of God positions if they would sleep with him. Robert would spin it that he was but a man who was seduced, and then beg his congregation for forgiveness. And most of them would forgive him, clearly. And after this happened, Robert would make advances on Melanie, as well as other women in his cult. Then he would get her to try and sleep with a different church member, and for some reason give her 3 days to think about it. So when she told one of her friends, she came with a baseball bat and helped remove all her things out. And that was in 2011, but her sister Priscylla stayed, and she ended up falling victim to Robert's sexual coercion. She felt ill from these experiences, and when she would vomit, Robert would tell her it was a purification process, which made her inclined to be with him more. This man is a sick freak. This is my thing. Using religion to prey on the vulnerable and to satisfy your sick urges and your greed. Robert, you are beyond diabolical. And don't tell me he's not using his children or hasn't used them as much as they allow him to for his own gain. That's the worst. That's why you're on my diabolical daddy list. So Priscilla would leave the church after being physically assaulted by Robert's wife, Hannah. And there's a scene in the documentary where the sisters are talking and they end up fighting about Priscilla being late to her niece's birthday. And she ends up saying this.
Bother on me. I told you every day I want to die. And you want me to fucking be on time on your daughter's birthday party and say I'm sorry because I'm late. Trying to show up or I kill myself. What the fuck do you want me to do?
This just broke my heart and answered any questions I was kind of chipping away at about the group. As I mentioned before, I related heavily to this case when I got sucked into the Netflix special, and for a few reasons. In my personal life, let's just say part of my interest in these stories stems from having my own set of wild stories, and thankfully none of them are close to as bad as the ones that I cover. And I know I am to an extent, and some people that listen to horrible, strange, and bizarre stories are doing so as a way of saying, at least this didn't happen. I don't know, at least my boyfriend wasn't trying to set himself on fire while I was driving last week, or at least I wasn't bringing my boyfriend to work while he was online looking for other girlfriends. Oh, wait. But you get what I'm saying. We all listen to this stuff for different reasons, and I would like to think a lot of us are trying to understand things like from a positive or preventative outlook, but the other side is out there as well. Anyways, I was watching some more of the videos of Melanie and her family talking about the situation at hand, and I did kind of have some thoughts that stem from my own similar experiences. I particularly related to their family when I saw this part of the documentary.
I love this girl right here. She has been our rock, and she is our pride and joy, but we have 2 daughters. We don't just have one. And we will not stop fighting for our other one too. No way.
They messed with the wrong family. We're not going away.
That's my family. So let's look at this clip together.
We're on that. We're trying to figure things out because I will not give up on my family. And it's not going to happen to me anymore.
And I think that's exactly what they want, is they want us to just go away.
It's not
Because
happening.
go away so they can just continue doing what
They
they're
don't know who
doing.
they're messed. They don't know who we've been beforehand. They don't know how close we've been.
And
I
it's
do
like,
know
it
a person
will
that came to our
die.
house. This person came to our house and sat in our house for over 7 weeks during the pandemic. And this is her husband now. And said, you have a very different, weird family. You're way too close.
Okay, so Melanie's husband-to-be stays with them, and it seems he's threatened by how close they are. He calls it weird. Let's keep watching for now, but I feel like that's pretty significant.
The fact is, we
Yeah,
know
first he
that.
said that-
People say that we are too close. We're weird that way, but we have a bond. We have a bond that we wish upon other people, that we can talk to each other no matter what. And somehow, some way, something changed our daughter. In no way in the world that a religious organization that we can't control has controlled her now.
And I always think I'm like, oh, all growing up, like we never fought about anything. If there were any, like even with my parents, like if there were anything that was coming up, like we could just talk about it. It's like I almost wish like we did fight so that like maybe this wouldn't be so crazy, because it's like would just cut off so abruptly and without explanation. And mind you, Miranda and I worked together. We had our whole page together. We had brand collaborations
She
at the
walked
time
out on
everything. And so I had hoped that she was going to come back. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So everything was put on hold for me as well. And it was just with no explanation. That's why we
walked
we
away
don't
from
know.
every obligation. She bought a car that she just left. She even left your management company through an email.
Everything was very
nobody ever
abrupt.
talked to her. Her manager never talked to her. She walked out on every single thing without speaking to anybody. She cut off all ties.
This is really sad, but why do you think someone would behave like this? And remember that Miranda does give a response, and we'll look at that together. But let's keep going for now.
Not
Send
even
it.
wishing her Grammy a happy birthday.
No.
I've sent messages to James that her grandma is in the hospital, is bleeding internally, and that we don't know what's wrong. We don't know what's going to happen. No response.
But this isn't to say that Miranda's this terrible person. We
Or
know
that James is
for
a terrible
James,
person.
It's
No.
the fact that they aren't in control of their lives, and they can't respond to us, and they find what I find so crazy too is we're such a threat that they need to block us out completely because they know how close we are. Well, they don't know because I'm sure they thought we would go away by now, but no, we will not give up on our family and we will do whatever it takes.
And let me go back to the whole James thing. James has always been very kind. When I knew him before, he was kind. He was respectful. He was not like this, to not respond when I say that grandma's in the hospital. So it's like, what is happening? And then for Miranda to not wish her Grammy a happy 80th birthday.
So that does make total sense. The cult doesn't want them near Miranda because they don't agree with them. And James, I just have the feeling that he is a huge part of this as well. Like, if she's as close to them as she used to be, it's not going to work for him. And obviously that's her husband, so she needs to distance herself from her family in order to make her life and her relationship work. There was also a clip or remark where they state that Miranda told her parents to just look at this as her rebellious phase. Here it is.
So one of the questions is, are you okay? I am great.
She even mentioned that to my mom. Just take this as like my rebellious stage.
Are you in a cult? No. Not in a cult. I'm in a house.
Kind of just like saying, give me a little space, guys. I'm not even doing anything wrong. I'm in a church, for crying out loud. And because everyone in question is an adult, all that can be done is talk about it and hope that at some point they are able to gather enough evidence to prosecute Robert, because he is quite good at what he does. Anyways, Miranda did post a written statement in which she states, I love my mom, dad, and Melanie, and they will forever be a part of my life. The truth is, we just don't see eye to eye at this time. I believe that this documentary is a one-sided story. I gave my life to Jesus Christ in 2020 and asked my family for some space in the very beginning to collect my thoughts and process my new walk I wanted to take with God. I also told my sister that I wanted to continue our Wilking Sisters social media page. She logged me out of our account, and when I asked for access back, she denied me my request. So I had no other choice but to start my own account and pursue my own career. I still have yet to receive access into our account. My family didn't honor the space that I asked for, and I saw a different side of them that I've never seen before. Honestly, it made me mad, frustrated, and annoyed that they were being so overbearing and chaotic. That's key right there. And I have the full statement posted if you want to zoom in and read it, but that's the gist. So let's take a second and look at Miranda's side here. She has clearly stated that this is what she wants for herself, and I'm convinced that James is a huge part of that. But either way, her family does not support her, and they're quite clear about that. And so it's her right to distance herself. And I'm not saying her family's wrong, and I'm not saying she's wrong. She's in quite the interesting situation. What I can say is that when I was in situations where my family was pushing me to get out of a lifestyle, I had to distance myself because of how pushy they can be. And it's nuts because I do feel like it comes from a place of love, but at the same time, there's a part of me that still resents the way they were about things, even if ultimately I'm grateful that they cared enough, if that makes any sense. So I guess I would say try and find common ground. When you're together, if you can, bond on what you guys still agree on and move slowly. If you're able to let her build that trust back, it would be easier for her to come back when she realizes she's not in the place that she thinks that she is or that she wants to be, if that is the case. It's never easy, and it's never something that someone wants to admit. I was wrong. I messed up. I joined a cult. I picked the wrong person. I spent too much. I'm a human. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. Either way, it's like she has everything she's ever wanted. The guy, the job, the home, the money, however much she gets to keep of it anyhow. But she has everything she's ever wanted, just not her family beside her. So as much as you can give her that, it's hard because you guys are all adults and no one wants to compromise, and I'm not going to say that anyone should. It's tricky. Anyhow, this is getting lengthy. But I thought for today's positive note, we'd swing back over to cultescape.com and take the test, as they say. So when I was seeing this guy, and he would say my church was a cult. Basically, part of my family is very involved in church, and ironically, that's where I met this guy. I really don't want to get too much into this story, but basically, he would say that they were in a cult to get me to stop going to the particular church that I was going to while we were together, and involving my family and my life altogether ultimately. So for fun, let's see how I did. Maybe, I don't know how those challenges get started or something, but maybe it could be one or something. Maybe it would help people take the test. Okay, so without further ado, here are my results. So you go ahead and you hop on the site, and it says, are you in a religious cult? Take the test. Okay. This is a very personal test, which is completely anonymous. You will not be required to provide any information as to your identity. Your privacy is respected. No one but you will know the results at the end. It is your life, and you get to choose your path, or you can follow a man or woman and let him or her choose it for you. So you've got nothing to lose. Be ruthlessly honest with yourself as you answer these 10 questions. At the end of it, you will have further options that you might want to explore. Okay, so the first one, cults begin or evolve with a charismatic leader who claims supreme knowledge. These leaders are able to influence their followers to believe their perceptives and obey their dictates. Is your leader the ultimate authority of your group? I'm going to say no, because it's a Christian church, but also it has a board with board members that are supposed to like keep that thing in check. So I'm going with no. All right, number 2. Most cult leaders give themselves impressive made-up names or titles which elevate their status to their followers. They may call themselves the man of God, pastor, prophet, messiah, messenger, enlightened teacher, guru, apostle, etc. Does your leader have impressive made-up names or titles? All right, I have to say yes here because my pastor calls himself a pastor. Next, cult leaders convince members to forfeit their critical thinking ability in return for a sense of belonging, authority, and purpose. To members, it doesn't matter what the evidence or logic may suggest. The leader is always right, and their misdeeds are always justified. Criticism of the leader is forbidden. Is your leader always right, and therefore you are not allowed to criticize him or her, even if the criticism is true? I'm going to say no here. Next one is, cults generally only allow their members to study their organization through approved sources. They view critical thinking as an infectious disease, and every effort is made to suppress it. Doubting members are encouraged to isolate themselves from outside influences and focus solely on the doctrine of the cult. People who contradict the group are viewed as persecutors and often given labels like anti-apostate or rival. Members are discouraged from consuming any material that is critical of the group. Are your members of your group discouraged from reading anything that is critical of your group? I'm going to say no again here. Because religious cults consider themselves the ultimate authority on truth, the members can't imagine anybody leaving the group with their integrity intact. Thus, they have to perpetuate a false narrative that former members were deceived, backslidden, demonic, bitter, evil, or fallen away, etc. As far as your group is concerned, would they say that there is no legitimate reason to leave them? I'm going to say no here. Number 6, does your group insist that the end of the world is near? Cults position themselves as the sole refuge from an evil outside world that is intent on their destruction. Cults thrive on conspiracy theories, catastrophic thinking, and persecution complex. In an effort to draw in more paying members, cults are often very aggressive in their recruitment efforts, which are usually justified as saving people from an evil world. Those who reject the cult's message are condemned, unelected, damned, evil goats, the great unwashed, etc. Is your group suspicious of the outside world? Again, I'm going to say no, although I think there's a fine line here with Christianity in general, which makes sense, as many of the cults stem from this religion, at least over here in America. Okay, number 7. Cults believe they are right. They are the right group with the right doctrines, the right leader, the right interpretation of the Holy Book, and their leader is right in dictating what laws and rules they are to obey. Does your group believe that they are the right religion, church group, or the only ones that have the right teaching or doctrine? Jeez. I'm going to put yes here, but I think, again, Christianity as a whole, please correct me if I'm wrong, they do. They think that they're the right ones. But doesn't every group think they're the right ones? Or something close to it? I don't know. Anyways, number 8, cults exercise control over their followers. The leader determines the rules and laws and expects to be obeyed, or else there are consequences. Rules and laws can include what you can't wear, where you can't live, who you can eat with or can't eat with, who you can't marry, what job you can't do, who you can't keep company with, what education you can't receive. It feels weird saying can't for all those. What's your stance to those who have left the group, and many more? Are there any of the above such rules or laws in your group? I'm going to say no again here. Emotional separation. Cults are not happy when members leave, primarily because they think there is never a legitimate reason to leave. Therefore, those who leave are treated negatively. Remaining members, even family members, distance themselves emotionally, often shunning and ostracizing ex-members. They now see them as unclean, evil, deceived, apostate, and opposer, etc. If you were to leave your religious group, would remaining members, even family members, separate themselves from you, whereby there would be any emotional detachment? I'm saying no here because my family, as I explained before, wouldn't let me go without a fight. So it's a little bit reverse in my situation, even then. Number 10, physical separation. Cults separate families. This is how it works. A member of a family leaves. The cult now separates the remaining family members with laws and rules. These dictate how they can now no longer have normal family life with that member who has left. Examples include: they are no longer allowed to freely eat and drink with them. They are no longer allowed to go on holiday with them. They are no longer allowed to celebrate the birth of their children with them or go to their wedding. They are no longer allowed to fully join in a funeral arrangement. Those were both significant in the case with the Wilking sisters. Okay, so if you were to leave your religious group, would remaining members separate themselves from you and cease to have normal family life as in any of the above examples? Okay, I'm going to say no again here. Let's see how I did. Okay, so it brings you to this screen that says 2 out of 10 characteristics appear to be in my group. So I have a pastor, and they think they are the right doctrine. So I'm pretty sure that means I'm not in a cult, and that's a good thing because I'm all dolled up to hit this fundraising gala for the church in question in a few. But if you even have to ask yourself, maybe try taking the test and then really looking closely into what you believe, and maybe the opposing side as well, because if you are right, what do you have to worry about? And if not, maybe you'll gain some insight. Take the test. Sorry, I can't stop. Anyways, if I get some good pictures of me and my family at the event, I'll pop them up here. And if not, this will just be blank. But I will take this opportunity to say I love you guys, and I'm sorry for all the stresses I've put you through over the years. Look, it's official on YouTube. Anyways, I would love to do an update at some point with Robert Shinn getting arrested. So if that ever happens, I will absolutely do an update. And hopefully if that goes down that way, maybe we'll even have a clip up here of the Wilkins dancing together again. That'd be great. But we'll see what life has in store. I wish nothing but the best for everyone in this case, except for Robert, really. I hope he reaps what he sows in prison. And I will be back. I have quite the twisty story for you next week with our last diabolical daddy of the month. It's a good one. And until next week, please stay safe out there. But more importantly, don't forget, you reap what you sow. So some good shit.